So I've just checked out the new Christopher Nolan movie, The Odyssey, and I'm just whoa, like whoa, just whoa, like this is just this is definitely an epic for the ages. I come in expecting like okay, the top my top films of Christopher Nolan is like Dark Knight and Inception, and this is definitely joining the ranks for sure. This is like absolute insanity from Christopher Nolan, who's known for his modesty, like practical approach to filmmaking, but this is just him elevated to 11, as an almost Spinal Tap reference, but this is him at 11. Like, this is like utter insanity, this, what he's pulling off. I don't know how to put it in words. Of course, it's based on Homer's Odyssey, which follows Matt Damon's character after the Battle of Troy, and as he tries to make his way home, and of course, he faces like a whole smorgasbord of like obstacles, like ranging from like sirens, ranging from like one-eyed cyclopses and giants, and really horrible ocean waves, and of course, there's a lot of scheming and a lot of scheming and conspiracy about who will take the throne when Anne Hathaway's character dies, or if she decides to abdicate. But this is like a movie that takes a lot of pages, like they say Akira Kurosawa's Ran, where it's kind of like based on like King Lear or something like that, from Shakespeare. But this is like pure insanity. Like, he throws everything, including the kitchen sink, and even past the kitchen sink. Like, this is that type of movie that is a pure maximalist feat. Like, something we probably have not seen since like Lord of the Rings, like the trilogy from Peter Jackson. Like, this is like a full-blown epic. Like, the movie visually is just incredible. The music by Ludwig Göransson particularly highlights like the being chased down by giants and armors, and of course when they sneak into Troy with that Trojan horse. And this is just like the music, of course, is Pete. The acting of Anne Hathaway, particularly, and Samantha Morton, and of course Matt Damon and Elliot Page, who is there very briefly in the movie. And Tom Holland definitely gives it what's possibly one of his best performances. What I definitely did expect coming from a Christopher Nolan movie is that he's going to really mess with the concept of time, as in, like in his most recent movie before this one being Oppenheimer, where it depicts Oppenheimer in a objective and a subjective light, in black and white or in color in their respective areas, or something like Interstellar, where it's pretty much the main facet of the story, where the longer you go from Earth, the more warped the concept of time is, or even like Dunkirk, where there's three different storylines with really different time structures, and this one it does tell the movie in not in a chronological way, so you're kind of like guessing like, oh, okay, how do you get to there to this? Then it does reveal you that, yeah, but oh, that's good, but then that happened, then how do you get from here to there? So it's definitely a very intriguing way that how he plays with time, particularly on this movie, particularly like I said, like, it gives you something, then it gives you something else when that thing gives you something else. Like, it's pretty much a very intriguing way that he does it. I think I might found the worst place to park because the sunlight is literally right there, and of course it's making the lighting of this video look a little bit weird. So please bear with. Like I said, the movie when it's done practically, since Christopher Nolan is known for his like practical effects, like, it is incredibly gorgeous how he does it. Like, particularly like the raid of Troy, which is incredible, particularly with the music where it racks up the tension more and more as it goes on, and particularly with the massive Trojan horse that like towers over Trojan over the city of Troy, which is again really magnificent, knowing that it's done practically, which is the same idea I do applaud to something like Backrooms, and of course a lot of his other films, of course, and of course the cyclone, or the big giant with like the one eye that's like sideways and it's on its forehead. It's apparently done like done by using like a 60-foot marionette puppet, apparently, and that looks incredibly amazing. Like, how they pulled it off. Like, normally I say, okay, you can use CGI, but he actually goes out of his way to use like a 60-foot tall marionette puppet to essentially create what's essentially a terrifying scene, which is again
just incredible. Just come to think of it. And even the ending scene, which I do not want to spoil for anyone, particularly I haven't read the books, but I did watch the Coen Brothers movie, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is based on Homer's Odyssey. But the ending is just utter insanity. Like, it just pleases me that Christopher Nolan can just steer right into the direction of like, this will be incredibly insane to put on film and show it to millions of people, but I'm gonna do it. Like, I just love how committed he is to doing the most insane stuff practically, and doing that entire ending scene is just incredible. Like I just found so much joy of that ending scene. Like, I don't want to again spoil it for anyone that hasn't read the books or even watched Oh Brother Where Art Thou, or even uh or even seen this movie already. But again, this is like the probably one the most incredible endings that Christopher Nolan probably ever put, just on how simply insane it is. I'll maybe if it's something, or he does like do something like simplistic, like in the most noble example is like Inception with the spinning top and Don Cobb reuniting with his kids, or something a bit more open ended like The Dark Knight, where the Dark Knight rides into a motorway, or something a little bit more sentimental like Interstellar, or something like that. Again, this is a director whose endings is somewhat of a lottery. It's going to go in any of these screens, but in well, for this one, it's just pure insanity and just go with the flow, no matter how incredibly insane it is. Like, it's just jaw dropping how he thinks of these ideas and how he puts it practically, and of course, how we're all gonna perceive it. Like, it's just insane. Like, the ending. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but it's insane. And everyone in this movie gives out incredible performances. Like there's Charlize Theron and Zendaya, who occupy Matt Damon's character in the island that he stays in for 7 years. And they, even though I wish they could, even though they do have like very small but somewhat deeply instrumental roles in this movie, their performances from both of them are incredible. Tom Holland as pretty much the son who still wishes his father will come back one day. Again, a very intriguing concept, and very well done how it got executed as well, which is again, I do applaud him as well. Particularly his performance in this movie is probably the best he's ever done. Like, so much so he is hyped up the movie so much that he's of course married to Zendaya, and of course Zendaya's worked with him and are married, and of course Zendaya is also working with Rob Pattinson with like the Dune movies and the recent drama movie called The Drama, of course. But of course, Anne Hathaway is just incredible as a movie, as a woman who's pretty much going to have to accept the fact that she's going to be grieving for a husband that hasn't returned home for such a long time, to the point everyone now presumes that he's dead. Or something like Robert Pattinson, who's just incredible as a scheming person who's trying to win over a throne and pretty much control everything around him. Yeah, whether it avails or not for him, it's just the way he conspires around everyone, and he doesn't trust Tom Holland or Anne Hathaway is just somewhat of a makes him a bit of a sniveling snake, in my opinion. Pretty much the one who wants to be in charge and pretty much has the tools to execute that plan when necessary. Even the sound effects are just incredible. It reminds me of something like the My Bloody Valentine concert I went to, or something like the live version of the Paranol track, or Into the Endless Night from After the Night live album. Like, the movie just walls you with like the most abrasive, loud noise. Not to the point it gets distorted or gets very uncomfortable. Like, it like walls you to the point if you find comfort in that, like in this intensity of the noise, like particularly when they breach the walls of Troy, and particularly in this in like the many scenes where they ride unsuccessfully, like Matt Damon rides unsuccessfully through the storm with Hashar Patel. Like, pretty much the movie sound effects just walls you, like to the point you find it comforting, like a shoegaze song like from My Bloody Valentine or Slow Dive or M83 or something. Like, it just walls you with it. Not to the point it just assaults you, like it makes it too uncomfortable for your ears, but it just walls you in, walls you in, walls you in. Then it just feels comfortable. I don't know. That's just my opinion on how brilliant the sound effects of that movie is. And of course, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say, like in every Christopher Nolan movie, the cinematography is just a beauty. As in, the two major highlights of the movie, even though I'm going to be a sucker when I'm going to say it, like, it's going to be wide shots with like the beach. Like, the two scenes I'm talking about specifically is when Elliot Page is looking over the Trojan horse, and of course, well, look at there's two different there's like separate montages of it, like from his perspective, Matt Damon's perspective, and of course the final flashback. Pretty much these sequences are just so beautiful. That sequence and the sequence when they run away from the undead army, when they all rise from the dead, that is like, particularly when they all enter and they all run away from it. It's just very beautiful, like very scenic, very gorgeous. Like how they use like contrast, use like more richness in its texture and depth, and of course color, which is incredible. And of course, this is done on 70mm or IMAX to be more specific, where you're going to get the richest texture, you're going to get the most color out of it, you're pretty much going to get the best quality you can get, which is again something I do applaud, particularly with Christopher Nolan's consistency, which I think he's done it since maybe the Dark Knight movies, or I can't remember, but again, him using 70mm is pretty much the chef's kiss. If we're comparing Odyssey or like Christopher Nolan's filmography to, let's say, Radiohead's discography, then I'm guessing if The Dark Knight is OK Computer or Inception is maybe Kid A, then Odyssey is definitely the In Rainbows of his filmography. Like, this movie is just balls to the walls insanity. Just the practical touches there, the visual imagery is there, the cinematography is gorgeous, the acting is incredible, the music by Little Garrison is unbelievably on point, and it could actually win him like his 4th Oscar in less than a decade. Like, I don't know anyone that's ever done that feat, but that's going to make a really good running in the Oscars. That, of course, all the characters' motivations make sense to me, and of course the scheming and the grieving is pretty much on point. Of course, the subplots are incredible. Of course, how intriguing the storyline is, and how the storylines, or how the concept of time, knowing it's a Christopher movie, gets mangled with this time is definitely very intriguing. Like, if it was played in chronological order, then it wouldn't be as much of an interesting movie, but if it's done in a way like it's in this movie, where we're constantly guessing, then we thought we got the answer, then we're only guessing even more after that answer, and the more information we get, the more questions, then of course it all rounds up at the end, thankfully. This movie is just incredible. Like, I cannot gush how much I love this movie without going, if it's going to be like my last video about my vinyl CD collection, which goes on for like 2 hours, sorry about that, then we'll be here again for a similar amount of time. So for Odyssey, I'm feeling a 10 out of 10 on this one. So what do you think of Odyssey? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, you can subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Blue Sky, Threads, Letterboxd, Twitter and Instagram. This is Elijah Wells, and bye.